Today, you might not associate LG with being a smartphone manufacturer, and I don't blame you. It's already been more than 4 years since they left the market. But why did they leave the market? Because LG used to be one of the biggest names in smartphones. They gave us some of the coolest, weirdest, and just generally most innovative smartphone designs ever. Phones with curved displays, modular parts, and whatever the LG wing was. And now they don't even make phones anymore. So what happened to LG? Well, today I will go over the rise, the fall, and what can be learnt from their mistakes. So let's go back to 2005 when they were on top. They released hit after hit, like the LG Chocolate, which sold over 20 million units. In 2007, the LG Prada, with the first capacitive touchscreen display on a phone. Then in 2013, the LG G2, and then later the G3. LG couldn't stop winning. But then they did. In the peak of their success, during the days of the G4, issues arose for that phone. This phone became infamous for its boot loop issues, where phones would restart just over and over again. And this wouldn't have been too bad if LG had handled it well, but they did not. They took months before issues or replacements were offered, but by then, people had already lost their trust in the company. And soon, their software also became an issue for them. LG's Optimus UI, or as it was just renamed, LG UX, started to show some issues as well. It was clunky, updates took far too long, and sometimes people would just miss out on the newest version of Android, with a whole new generation releasing before they got their version. And this was made worse. Samsung's TouchWiz wasn't quite as terrible as it was before. iOS was incredibly solid, which made LG's buggy mess just slightly disappointing. And after the G4, LG was stuck. Their phones started to look outdated, sales were crawling down slowly, and they just didn't seem to have a clear direction. But instead of fixing their core issues and what they needed to, they tried to stand out by completely forgetting who they were every single year. Like with the G5. That phone's selling point was that it was completely modular. You could slide out the bottom and swap it out for a camera grip, a whole new speaker, or even a different battery. Cool on paper, but they were kind of expensive, nobody made third-party accessories, and it was just kind of a gimmick. And hey, if you want to watch my video about smartphone gimmicks, go click somewhere up here. And then came the LG V series, starting with the V10. These had a secondary display on top, allowing you to control music, app access shortcuts, or view notifications. And I'll get into how these phones were received in a minute, but let's just talk about the names. Because LG had them going quite consistently at first. The LG V10, the V20 and the V30. And then next the V30S ThinQ, the V35 ThinQ, the V40 ThinQ. Random shake-ups like this that just made LG's naming system so confusing. And well, this V series was not a success. Again, it had a cool gimmick, but not a gimmick that people actually needed or wanted. LG did more. The LG G Flex with a curved display and a self-healing back. The LG Wing with a rotating T-shape, which does look really cool to be honest. And were all of these creative? Yeah. But were they helping LG's core issues? No. All of this just meant that LG didn't seem to have a clear brand identity, just throwing things at a wall until one worked out, which they never did. Combine this with other behind-the-scenes issues, like nobody actually knew that they made phones. The prices of their phones were also outmatched with competitors when you look at the specs. And they just didn't have the same long-term support as their competitors. This all added up to mean that LG's market share was falling quickly. And by the late 2010s, LG's mobile division was in some serious trouble. They were losing billions and nobody knew about them. Something had to be done. Each phone was trying to be a fresh start for LG. The G7, the V40, Thin Q, the LG Velvet, trying to focus on specs rather than design. But it just didn't work. And the reports must have been terrible for them. For 23 quarters straight, LG's mobile division was consistently losing money. Nearly 6 years of not making a single penny. How bad is that? And by 2020, LG was completely forgotten. And in 2021, LG finally announced that they would be shutting down their mobile phone division. They claimed it was to focus on other areas of growth, but really we all know it was because they couldn't keep up in a market where brand identity and consistency matters more than cool gimmicks. So what can we learn from LG's failure? Well, it's as simple as innovation isn't enough. You need brand identity and trust. You can make the coolest, most polished phone ever, but if people don't trust your brand, nobody's going to buy it. Their biggest mistake wasn't because they were making bad phones, they were just making different phones. They swerved direction every single year with every new release. But that meant that Samsung became known for their refinement, Apple for consistency, and even the smaller brands at the time, like OnePlus, having some of the most loyal fans. And yet nobody really knew what LG was trying to do. Anyway, that's all for this video. If you did enjoy, I'd greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe and go watch one of these two videos here. Bye!